March 18. My name is Hazel Nurse. I'm chairman of the board. To my far left is our town planner, Jenny Goodrich, John Pizzoni next to me, and John Goodrich on my right. Christina Kelleher is not with us tonight, and Mark Silverberg has resigned due to his election to the Board of Selectmen. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mark for all the work and time he's put in on the planning board, and to wish him best on the Board of Selectmen, where I know he'll do an excellent job as he's done for us here on the planning board, and wish him well in his new position. First on our agenda is Silver Hollow. If you could come up and introduce yourself, please. And I think the only item we had left on this was the...
There is? Oh, good.
Yeah. The only item we had left on this was the planting plan.
Yes. Hi, Barry Atchison, WDA Design Group, representing Silver Hollow Estates. Steve apologized. He'd like to have made it here, but due to conflict of his schedule, he couldn't, so he left me to take charge on this. Yes, per our last meeting, we continued to this meeting so that we could discuss the trees with your tree warden. And we have done that. And what you're looking at is a culmination of our landscape architect and Kyle Grendall finding locations to place the remaining trees that we need to put into the property for the development.
Can you possibly show us where the additions were from the changes from the one that you presented to us last time?
Yep.
Pointer.
Thank you. There was a proposed 61 trees up in this area here. And as we discussed, they didn't really serve the purpose that they wanted, so they were eliminated. There are some additional trees. So the cul-de-sacs, during our discussion with Kyle, thought they were too close to the utility, so we've relocated the 11 trees that were proposed in the cul-de-sac, and we smattered them around the development. And they are up in here in the open space. There's one over in here, open space. We put a bunch down along here, along the open space. And then we still continued with what we needed to put in for the remainder of trees along the roadway. I know Kyle Grendall had discussed with the homeowners, some of the homeowners had wished to get some more plantings on their property, but that just poses more issues for the developer for watering and duration. So we tried to keep the stuff on the property that he can control until it gets turned over for the acceptance, which is putting trees in the open space and or along the edge of the right-of-way. And the homeowners do have the right to put more trees on their property if they so choose. They just need a little coordination effort, make sure they're not on utilities and so forth around the property. They do come out either side of the house, and there is a lot of infiltration systems and overflows and different systems around there that they should be mindful of.
All right. Does anyone on the board have any comments about this change in the planning plan?
I have a question.
Yep.
So have there been any additional trees, or is it just relocating the 61 trees that were in that one corner?
Relocation.
But no new additional trees?
Not beyond what was required on the proposal.
In the site plan.
And then for the residents, you're saying the utilities, obviously 811 will tell them where those utilities are. If they call 811, it'll come out and mark the property. But that won't do the other infrastructure that's underneath, stormwater or anything like that. Is there any way that the residents would know with that information where they could plant trees?
Yeah, they have, should have access to as-built, extremely detailed as-built plans, either through engineering, through the permitting process, or they can call us up and provide a plan, I guess.
And planning department has those plans as well, I assume?
Yep.
All right, so for the residents out there, if you want to know where the infrastructure is on your properties, you can reach out to the planning department, ask for the as-built plans, and that should show you where the stuff is. And then if you want to dig as well, call 811. They'll have the utilities come and mark out all the actual water, power, gas, all that kind of stuff.
I would have thought that, and I'm not sure, maybe a homeowner could tell us, but as part of their certificate of occupancy, whether they were provided a as-built plan.
They may have, but I know a lot of residents, as they move into new homes, lose all that paperwork or don't know where it is. So if you need to know where those plans are, we have as-built in the planning department.
Right, and don't understand what as-built means, I mean, as to what things they're supposed to be looking for before they do any planting.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's mainly the problem more than anything else.
I agree.
Make sure that roots aren't growing into systems that they shouldn't be. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. John, you said no questions.
No, nothing from me.
Nothing else.
Yes, John, on that. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment on the tree plan? If you would come and give your name.
Hi, my name is Rohit Shinde. I live in.
I don't know if that microphone is
You'll
on.
have to,
Can you hear me now? All right. Hi. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Rohit Shinde. I live in Lot 26, 2 Bardowl. So yeah, we worked with Kyle, the tree warden, to just give him some input on what the residents were. So I had a couple of points to make. There are few lots that residents said, like for example, lot 13, which again, I don't know, it's at the bottom in the cul-de-sac Blue Heron, where they don't have a single tree. Then there are like lot 5, where they have no privacy towards Meadowlark Lane. If you want, I can show it with the pointer. Lot 5, yep, over there. And then again, there are some more areas like that. Lot 1 also said we don't have a lot of privacy in front of Mount Pleasant. So my question was, can we work with WDA and the developer to allocate some trees to give them that coverage that they need? Because again, putting some of these trees in the open areas, our bigger question is who's going to water and maintain these trees? Some of these homeowners we spoke to, and some of them are here in the audience today, they said if it's in our lot, we are more than happy to water and take care of these trees over the next 2 years. So it's a win-win scenario for the trees also, where they are not standing in the open on their own, versus if they are in the open, nobody, like who's going to water it? Is that?
I think the homeowners association is going to be in charge of maintenance of those trees, generally is the way these things work. You know, so it's a decision really of the homeowners association as to taking care of the trees. I mean, once the homeowners association is officially turned over to the residents, then it's up to them to maintain the landscaping within the development.
Okay, so I think that was more of the input from the residents, that if these trees are more closer to their lots, then they will be better taken care of, because currently we are residents, we don't have any say or role in the HOA. So when we take these over, maybe later this year or end of this year, it will be more convenient for the residents to be able to take care of these younger trees. And especially like 3-4 lots that I mentioned, they have nothing on their lot. So yeah, they can plant it something on their own in the future, but that was more of a feedback we wanted to give.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, you know, they had a required number of trees that were on the plan, and they're just relocating, you know, dispersing them where they can. You want trees in the open space, you want plantings in the open space to make it look more attractive. That means some residents might not get the same amount of trees as others, but there might be infrastructure underneath the ground that prohibits certain plantings from being in certain areas, and that's why they locate them in certain areas. But it doesn't stop the residents from planting trees.
Yeah. So till the community is taken over by the residents or the HOA is taken over by the resident, the developer will continue to water these trees.
And I think probably the best way generally to deal with these things is to wait and let the trees grow and see where they are and what they're covering and so forth. And then if residents wish further trees, they can put them in themselves. So, normally it's better to wait and just see how it's going to look altogether, because it may turn out that the trees that are going in the open space are things that you'd rather have in the open space than trying to move things around now. And I think the fact the developer did discuss this with the tree warden as to where the best location was based on the number of trees. It's not an infinite number of trees that were going to be put in at this particular time.
Yeah. I think we are good on that. I think the question is when these trees are planted, I'm assuming sometime in spring, till the HOA is transitioned to the residents, the builder will be watering these trees.
Yeah. And basically the developer is in control of the site until it's handed over to the HOA, and then once it's
The builder is
control of
the
the HOA, then
HOA
the HOA is control.
Correct.
Unless there's some agreement between the developer and the HOA, but the town's not a part of that.
Yeah. No, I think so. On the trees topic, that pretty much was the points we had. But while we were on the landscaping plan, there were two quick topics I wanted to bring to your attention. And so with WDA and the developer is one, there are areas as you plant these trees, like on the top where it says, actually next to my lot 26, the new trees that have been put in, that's to help with much of the slope easement, right? Because there is a lot of erosion that is happening. And similar to that spot, there are 3-4 other spots in the subdivision where enough hydroseeding and growth has not occurred. So these open areas are just like clay and water is running off, so nothing is
I think we
staying.
did mention to discuss this with the town and get someone from the town out there to look at that. From our last meeting, that was the discussion we had about that, and I would suggest you do that because that's something to deal with the developer about.
Yeah, okay. So then that way they can also take care of like some of the regrading if that needs to be done, including some of the trails, things like that.
All right, thank you.
Town planner or DPW?
It would be DPW or the engineering office. So this right now is just for the landscaping plan. They will still have to come back to the planning board and go through the process to get the final as-built approved so that the town can vote on whether to accept the road. So we will look at those additional things once we get to that point.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question about trails, but I can come back later. I don't know if that's on the
Question
agenda.
about what?
The trails.
The trails, we passed the trails last time at the meeting.
Okay.
So the planning board's finished as far as the trails go. And you can discuss it with the developer if you wish. But other than that, we approved the replaced or the new design for the trails. We agreed and accepted at the last meeting.
Okay, I think our question more is around the public versus private use of those trails, so we can take that off.
You'll have to deal with the homeowners association on that.
Okay.
Okay?
So basically homeowners association can decide that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I could talk to you after this.
We can, all right,
All
awesome.
right, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that'd like to talk about the landscaping plan? Yes, sir?
Yeah, hi. My name is Özgür Kosar. I live in Lot 4, 7 Bard Owl Drive. So basically, when you look at the plan, because of some utilities running through my front yard, looks like they remove all the trees. We're supposed to get 2 trees there. And my ask for the WDA, can you come up a proposed location for these 2 trees? Because I would like to have some trees there. Right now, it looks like there's nothing is there because of the utilities there. But I believe, we should be able to find a location for these 2 trees for my front yard.
We can discuss that after separately.
Okay. Then also behind that lot 4, the open space. So a lot of construction debris is still there. They didn't do any cleanup.
Well, would you discuss
Dead
that with the
trees?
developer or?
Yeah, we can address that.
Well, the
Okay.
open space,
will-
if it's going to be open space,
Open space, but they
they
need
need to
to,
return it to the natural
Right,
state.
exactly.
So if they haven't, then that's,
There's still construction blowing in there, and there's also ECB or erosion control barrier stuff that are still out there that they need to clean to finish this whole thing up.
Yeah.
Once we get final approval on all these trees,
Right.
we finally get approval through Concom and all those other things, the houses are built. So we're kind of wrapping things up here. We'll clean those things up and address some of these other stuff that the homeowners are
Yeah.
concerned about, so.
yeah, so that open space is going to be returned to its natural state prior
Okay.
to the project being completed.
also, I have some issues from my backyard. So we get a lot of puddling when
Well,
there's
that
rain.
is something you would discuss with the developer or the
Developer?
department. As I
Okay.
said, talk to the town about it if there's a problem there.
DPW
Yep.
engineering group? Okay,
DPW and engineering.
okay, thank you.
Yes, sir?
Yeah, hi, my name is Naitik and I reside in 1 Blue Heron Court. Just wanted to also add that over the past few days, I was there for the last town hall as well, where we spoke at length about quite a few things and a lot of new things that we learned. And based on all the things that we learned, we had, obviously, as all the residents in the community, we filed a petition with the town to just go over some of the concerns, open items and all. So we're trying to figure out as to with whom do we work on those open items in the petition, because we don't get responses from everyone, that's our
All right,
challenge
well, I
here.
think the first thing, one of the things you talked about was a problem with drainage and various things. That you would discuss with DPW, would be the people to talk about that, and if your problems with conservation on that. So it's the various departments in town.
Yeah. So
We as a planning board
I
are
understand
just
that.
waiting for the final thing, but this plan has not been signed off on fully.
And the reason why we want to bring this up forward is because before the plan is signed, then, I hope it doesn't become too late. And the challenge is, when I send out emails and all, I don't get responses from DPW. Jenny's fantastic. She works with us. I know I've been working with conservation as well because my lot is under CO certificate of compliance, but I just don't get any responses from DPW. So
I don't know what to suggest about that.
So
Jenny?
yeah, and just to reiterate, because I know the process can be a little confusing because there's so many different parts.
Agreed.
But the planning board right now is just looking at the modification for the planting plan. But a lot of the items that you have questions about will come up and be answered as we move to the next phase, which would be reviewing the as-built plan that they submit in order to get to road acceptance.
Okay.
So we haven't accepted the subdivision as a final plan. And then once we get that plan, it will come back to the planning board. But as we work through that, a lot of those questions can be answered. In regards to the HOA, we don't really have any authority over that. We want to know it exists and that the legal parameters are in there for protection to the town. But we don't get involved in the details. So I have your list, and we'll be, talking about it as
Sure.
different departments and answering them as best we can.
No, I appreciate that. That's the major concern, because some of the questions that I think, according to us, are pretty straightforward, I'll be honest, but DPW has to answer those, like streetlights, who's going to own those? I mean, I think we should have figured that by now, right? I've just not gotten an answer from anyone about it, a concrete answer, so.
All right, well, I'm sure that Jenny's working on this and that she'll get the answers or steer you to the right people to talk about.
Okay, I
Okay.
appreciate it. All right.
All right.
And Barry, I'll talk to you about the trails and all after.
And you can discuss with the developer anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah,
we
the
just found
developer
out
is not
about these.
responsive, that's the problem.
Okay.
He's not responsive, so.
Right.
We just found out about these concerns as well and haven't addressed them back, so they really should come to us and then.
Anyone else like to comment? Yes, sir?
Hi, this is Raj Kalola from 5 Meadowlark Lane. So regarding the plantings, is this the final? that there is no repurpose of the plantings in the areas.
We'll accept it as it's been presented on the plan. That doesn't mean that things might not come up, that it would be that they're putting in something and it turns out it wasn't the appropriate place. I think the town will be working with the developer to put the trees in, but you never know what's going to happen.
Okay, so my follow-up question is, can we wait until the HOA's transition to plant those trees? So the HOA can have a say where they can go in? Because it's already too much green space right now with the 26 homes we have.
Well, the DPW will be putting the plantings in. They're the people that will do it.
Developer will put it
Jenny,
in.
I meant they're going to be digging the holes.
Well, the developer will put in the plantings.
Right. They're going
Right.
to dig the holes. I think that's what he was concerned about.
No, I think he wants to potentially change the location of some of the plantings.
Well, I think at this point,
Yeah, so there's significant, or there are rules and regulations for subdivisions, and then the planning board has guidelines and regulations on requirements for trees, landscaping, things like that, and so that's what this was approved under. So they need to comply with that. The developer needs to comply with that. Once the road's accepted, or once this is transferred to the HOA, then if you want to plant additional trees, then that's up to you as an HOA. But we don't get involved in that, and we can't, unless the planning board decides to waive the requirement for a lot of these trees, then there's nothing we can do to change it.
I mean, I think you have to remember, we've had the tree warden out there to look as to where the appropriate places would be. He's discussed it with the developer. I think that the members of your community have also had a chance to look at these plans. So we can't just willy-nilly move, I mean, it isn't up to the planning board to kind of move trees around. So we've taken the best kind of advice that we can get as far as where the appropriate places are for these particular plantings.
Yep, so the only last ask or request to the team is, look at the cul-de-sacs. It's already like, there's too much green space out there. We don't want too many big trees over there, causing more maintenance, more leaves, more, it's going to be too much of for HOA. So it's a request, so.
So I'll just say, what it looks like on a plan is sometimes different than what it looks like when it's done. So I would say just see what it looks like when it's done, like when the trees are in, and it might be different than what you expected it to be.
Which is the suggestion I made earlier, was,
Yeah.
Okay.
you know, until it's there, you won't know what it really looks like. So this is one of the reasons I said you probably, as a homeowner, don't want to be putting plants in yourself until you see what the planning plan has done and whether there are any additional things that you'd like to put in.
Right, cool.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to comment on this plan? All right, if we're ready, could I have a motion?
I move that the planning board approve the minor modifications to the landscaping plan as shown on plan entitled As-Built Planting Plan prepared by WDA Design Group, revised on March 17, 2025.
Is there a second? John?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you're not staying for the rest of the meeting, I would ask that you leave quietly, as we do have some other business tonight.
What are these motions for, then?
Those last, yeah. All we had left
until the
was.
next planning board meeting on March 8th.
Right. We were left, that was all we were left
I was
with.
very confused.
I went to her and I said, what is this March 18th? And she said to me, I just took the same, used it again. Sorry to ask that question.
And that was just part of the old.
Got it.
memo.
I was confused. I was like,
We
what?
found
I
it.
know, because we talked about keeping the old memo, but then I'm like, that is confusing, so maybe I'll.
Okay.
Right, Hazel corrected me.
Okay, good.
Okay. Actually, it would be very helpful to me if you would bold the motions.
I would what?
Bold. put them in bold text
I actually like them in a different font, something
or
like
if different, just,
Too small.
I can add some animation to
All
the
right.
page. Got it.
just because I don't find them.
All right.
All right, okay. Thank you. All right, we have a review of a letter of support for the Housing Works grant. If you could just give us a brief summary of the Housing Works grant.
Yes, I have my memo, so I have my notes. 1 second. So this is the board, this is the same board that was here for last year when we did this. So DPW applied for a grant through the EOHLC's One Stop for Growth program, and this is specifically for the Housing Works grant. Provides funding for projects related to housing, specifically really for infrastructure, things like that. This project specifically, they're applying to rehabilitate the sewer pipes in the downtown area. The pipes, I believe, are clay and they're currently cracking. There's a description here that the DPW director did provide. We've already completed approximately 5 miles of the sewer investigation in the downtown area, but we need funding to be able to complete it. With this, it will allow for better sewer flow. It's just a problem that we've been dealing with all over town. So it will have an impact to housing in the area as well, and our sewer capacity.
Do you have any idea how many more miles of pipe are left, out of curiosity?
I'm seeing if it says in his memo. I don't know. Well, they've completed 5 miles of the sewer investigation, and then 1.5 miles have been rehabilitated. So I think it's just the difference between the 5 and the 1.5.
Oh, is that all? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Additional 2+ miles of pipe rehabilitation.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this funding would help us get there. We've also asked for support from the Colangelos from the 18 Lyman project in order to help us get this grant. So we're just asking for a letter of support from the planning board. It's the same cost, as far as I know, and the same project that was presented last year that we did not receive the grant for.
Okay. Could I have a motion to support the letter?
I move that the planning board submit the letter of support as presented for funding through the fiscal year 26 Housing Works grant to accelerate an ongoing sewer rehabilitation project in the downtown area.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Great.
Jenny, do you want me to just sign the letter, or
Yes, if you can
is
just.
this one?
Yep.
Just sign it?
Just sign it, and then we'll, Dirk can send it to Chris Payant.
Okay, there you go. Oh, sorry. Wrong direction. Okay, we've got 4 articles actually on the town meeting. Article 25, which is the acceptance of 190-212 Oak Street, which is that piece of vacant property behind the courthouse.
Right, and I do have just the plan to bring up to the board.
Good.
But I just, the board needs to vote on whether to support this, so I can submit that as part of the record for town meeting. And then we can discuss later on who's going to make the motions for all of the articles.
All right.
I don't know why it's not coming up on the screen anymore. Things all out of whack with that screen.
All right. I move that the planning board.
I think we've all seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move the
there it
planning
is.
board support Article 25, the acceptance of 190-212 Oak Street at the
Second.
annual town meeting.
All in favor? And the second one is Article 26, the sidewalk easement at 2 Bridle Lane.
Yep, so that's just the sidewalk easement that the board asked for as a condition to the Boston Lawnmower property.
Is this just an acceptance of that easement?
Yes. Well, it's, yeah, so the select board can negotiate the easement technically. So
So what action is the planning board taking on this?
what do you,
Like, what's the town meeting article? To
accept
accept the easement? To
enable the select board to
Negotiate.
accept the easement as a gift.
Right. Easement will be a gift from
So
Boston.
we're voting at town meeting to authorize, the planning board is sponsoring an article
Right,
to authorize the select board.
right, to acquire by
accept it.
gift the sidewalk easement.
And we're the sponsor because it's part of a subdivision that we approved?
It's part of a site plan review.
Site plan review.
Site plan review that we
Yeah,
approved?
Right.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? I have a motion.
I move that the planning board recommend approval of Article 26, the sidewalk easement at annual town meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Just asking those questions because apparently I'm a speaker on that article and I don't know what this is.
Oh, really?
That's what Christie said.
Well, we asked for the, she had asked for the, who would be speaking, who I thought would be, but then we have to talk about it tonight to confirm it. So you can blame Hazel for that one.
I don't mind, I just want to know what I'm actually going to be
I didn't even
introducing.
look at the speakers list. What am I doing?
You're doing the ADUs and the table of uses.
Yeah, so it can change.
Yeah.
But-
No, that's fine. I mean, John, you're not going to be there, is that my understanding?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, yeah, no, that's fine. So I'll do the ADU and the table of whatever it is.
And John, you'll do the sidewalk and the
Yeah.
acquisition?
I'll do
of-
whatever.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
And we can change if we wish. I don't think that's written in stone. Fine. All right, budget discussion. I don't know whether you all are aware of the fact that under the revised town budget, the half-time of our administrative assistant is now going to be sitting in the health department, which means that Dirk will not be there, and so we will not have an administrative assistant 50% of the time. This came somewhat of a surprise to me because I had not heard about it, and we as a board were not consulted, and I think Jenny was just told about it. I am very distressed about this because I feel that two things. One is the fact that the Dirk is our face to the public generally, and we've not hired our planner and our assistant planner to spend their time answering questions on the phone in front of the public. And I think the planning department in particular needs someone there who's going to be able to answer questions if developer calls, if someone calls with a question about planning, to find themselves having an answering machine is not very helpful, and I don't think it does much for our town. I think it's terribly important that we have a full-time administrative assistant. On top of that, his other part of his work is going to be at the health department, which is in a totally different building. So it means that he can't even cover both at the same time. It just means we're losing half of our administrative assistant's time. I don't know whether anything can be done about this, but I certainly would like to see how the board feels, whether we would like to write a letter or make some sort of a statement at the town board about this problem.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I think, my concern is you have a sentiment of, well, government is ineffective, local government employees don't put the effort in, and then you've got things like this where you're going to have half the time somebody comes in to talk to the planning board or talk to the building department, and somebody's not going to be there to answer questions. And then they're going to say, oh, people aren't working anymore. But in reality, it's because we're trying to cut costs and we're trying to have somebody do two jobs at the same time, and that's going to be forgotten down the road. And all that's going to come back is, well, the planning department's ineffective. Planning department's not
We can't-
responsive to the
yeah, we
public. Planning
can't reach
department
Yeah.
isn't doing the things that they need to be doing. And so I just don't see how it's going to end up being a positive for the town by having less service on things that need public-facing employees.
John?
I mean, I feel the same way on both fronts. I think if the town's looking to cut the budget, this isn't where it needs to be cut. We have several projects that are going to be in the pipeline for the planning department. I think all hands are going to be required to work through them. So, I mean, there's several other ways and avenues for the town to cut the budget than to, give someone 2 jobs and split hours between departments.
And 2 very different jobs.
Yeah.
In 2 different locations.
In 2 different locations. I think that one of the values that we have for our town planner and our assistant planner is the fact that they are able to attend meetings and do the work that really needs to be done for planning. And I do not think it should be their job to be answering phones or standing at the desk to cover things there. So
Is this a union job?
yes.
And the union allows that to be split between 2 different jobs?
This has gone to the union for review.
I would be surprised if they even approve that, or whatever that.
Christie's here. Christie, maybe you could speak to this. I mean, we are really not in favor of this. I understand, and I think we all understand the budget constraints the town is under, but quite frankly, looking at the town proposed reductions, a majority of these reductions are for staffing, which is facing the public and dealing with the public. And the planning board really needs to be able to deal with the public and be available. And we didn't hire our town planner and our assistant planner to spend their time dealing with the public. And we've got a number of projects coming up, and if you're a developer and you want answers on things or just have a question about something, you need to be able to reach somebody. You cannot talk to an answering machine.
So to answer your question, John, we've met our bargaining obligations related to all of these reductions, so we can move forward. I don't disagree with you, Hazel. It's uncomfortable. And I think if you look through the totality of the reductions, none of them are ideal. So one of the reasons that this position was chosen to serve to help the Board of Health, who is not going to have any assistant, is because of the number of administrative assistants in the Community Development and Planning Office. So the Community Development has a full-time administrative assistant that is fully cross-trained with the Planning Department administrative assistant. They sit right next to each other in front of the window, and they support each other. So I'm not saying that this should be a long-term, I'm not saying that this is something that we should do on a permanent basis. This is probably the most difficult cut related to the health department. But this is just one of the cuts that we put forward. The Community Development Department is also experiencing a cut, which you can see in that presentation with the plumbing inspector. There are 3 other positions that serve in administrative capacities in that office, in that area. So this one made the most sense. In my own office, we're losing 35 hours of an admin. So I don't disagree that this isn't ideal, but everyone has contributed, and this is, excuse me, this is the path that we've gone down related to this position. I wish that we could restore it. I don't know what will happen, in future years. I do think that this one is probably, on a sort of efficiency basis, the most disruptive. But this is the path that we've gone down. We are, just for the public, Board of Health will have no administrative assistant, so this would serve some hours in that position across the street. The idea is that Jenny, as the town planner, would remain the supervisor of this position. So, she would certainly continue to be the manager. But we've also cut out a 25-hour-a-week position in our treasurer collector's office. We've reduced hours of other staff. So it's not easy, but this is where we've landed.
I mean, I think my concern mainly is the fact that I know that the community development assistant or administrative assistant also deals with the building department over there and with conservation and with community development and sustainability are all being dealt with by that admin.
No.
Or
So
at least those three.
No, so the conservation department has its own admin who helps out sometimes. And Jenny can speak to that. The sustainability coordinator, part of his title is community development assistant, and there's the full-time admin that sits right next to the full-time planning board admin. So there is a lot of, and we actually also have just hired a part-time administrative assistant to support the Historic Commission, the CPC, and the ZBA.
You're right, and zoning board, I think.
So we do have a lot of administrative support in that area.
As I said, I just really feel for the planning because we're the one department that really needs people there because of, I mean, one of the things that'll bring down the taxes in this town is to get more commercial development. But if, you're having a problem with your staffing who's not available to talk to people and deal with this, I mean, we need our planner to go out with community development, with Fred and various people to go to meetings, to meet people, to do things. So they can't be covering admin kinds of things. And that's what really bothers me, is that they're not going to be available to do that. I mean, you can't ask the admin who's working for the building department and for community and for Fred to spend their time. I mean, if they need to go out and do something themselves, we're going to have nobody covering there.
But they already do
concerned.
it. They already do it. And I'm not saying that we don't have a need for 2 full-time staff there, but the administrative assistant that works under Fred already does cover for that position when they're not there.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying is that, but then if it turns out that our person is over the Board of Health across the street, and can't do anything to help, that's where they were cross-trained originally so that they could help each other out. Well, they're not even in the building. That is the main problem. I mean, if there was some place closer that, where you could cross-train somebody, but you can't cross-train somebody who's sitting over the Board of Health to try to do something over here in this building. So that's what doesn't make sense to me, is that, whether there was a way to use someone over in that building part-time to cover that.
There isn't, because every other department only has 1 administrative assistant. And so because community development and planning sit together and there's a lot of administrative staff, I understand that the administrative staff that we have is what we need, and that's what my original budget presentation was to have a level service budget. But there is no other department in the town hall that has multiple administrative assistants.
Well, we have multiple.
My concern is, we just set up the assistant, sorry, I'm like gonna cough into the microphone. We just set up the assistant town planner position with Kristen. She was this position before. Dirk's gonna go over to Board of Health. And then I would assume Kristen is probably gonna just fall back into doing some of that responsibility. And my concern is having that efficiency already there, it's gonna not be as painful as it could have been because we've got competent staff that's actually doing the job, right? And so then that's just going to make the argument down the road, oh, well, you don't really need a full-time administrative assistant in the planning board office. And so my concern isn't necessarily that, it's going to, yes, there are going to be concerns about the public facing stuff like that, but it's going to be more of, is this going to be justified to be permanent even though we're being told it's going to be temporary because of how our department is set up currently?
No, I think it's a valid concern, but I don't see that happening because ultimately this position is not being taken out of the planning department. So in terms of the classification plan that we adhere to, in terms of your budget, it's fully within the planning department. So the only change would be if we had someone come into the health department, which is also equally not being staffed at all. So even though maybe it's not being sort of felt as much as you just said, on the planning department side, the Board of Health will actually be shut down for a reduced number of hours a week. So, I mean, I think that I don't see this. I mean, I know that the Finance Committee might disagree. I don't see this one as a long-term cut. It was just what we were required to do. And given the number of folks that can help cover that counter on this side of the street, this is what the option that we went with. But I don't believe, and I know that others don't believe, that this is a long-term solution. I mean, it absolutely is not a long-term solution to have someone who is working in an assistant role functioning as an administrative assistant. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. That's why we created the position. So I certainly can't guarantee anything. And at this point, it's really out of my hands. I mean, I can't change the reductions that we put forward. We've already negotiated this with the unions. We already presented them. This is how they're going to town meeting.
Do we have the option to come back in October and change this?
That's not really a question for me. I mean, there's always an opportunity to seek additional appropriation at town meeting. I mean, I guess that's more of a question for the Finance Committee.
Would you say the solution to the planning department's staffing issue would be for the Board of Health to solve that staffing issue?
Yeah. Yes, because you retain your full-time person. So it would just be, even if the Board of Health only had, at this point, they'll only have maybe 20 hours a week staffed. We've already talked about the priority of the committees, because there are so many committees on the planning side that this position supports. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's where the lack of funding is. It's not in the planning department.
Did you add staff to the Board of Health? I noticed when I was looking at the line budget that they went from 3 to 4 and 45, I think. The health department this year has gone from, last year from 24, it was 4, and 25, it's 4.5. 25, it was 5.45. So how many people do they actually have over there?
I don't know what you're looking at specifically. So last year, we added a 12-hour-a-week public health nurse. So that might be the increase that you're seeing.
The FTE equivalent chart, or FTE chart.
Yeah. So they have always had a full-time administrative assistant, a full-time director, and a full-time sanitarian, and a full-time health inspector. So they spend a lot of time on the road, which is why they need administrative support more than 20 hours a week, but that's just where we're at. And then they have this very part-time public health nurse that spends half his time at the senior center.
I mean, I don't know what else to say at this particular time, except that obviously we're not happy about this situation. And I think that, I'm not happy on behalf of the town as much as anything else, because I do feel that the face of the planning department is terribly important to this town, and not having a full-time administrative assistant is going to affect how we deal with the public. And I think that's the thing that really bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what else to say. I mean, just like our office, I think is equally important to the town as well as the treasurer collector's office when we're all losing people who are forward-facing.
John, do you have any comments to Christie? No. Any questions? John? All right, thank you for coming over. I appreciate it. All right.
Minutes?
Jenny's next, updating. My question to you as a board, I guess, is would you like to have the planning board make a comment at town meeting concerning this?
I'm kind of torn because like, I understand the argument for it. Like, it sucks, right? It sucks, but like,
It's not going to.
my question is the staffing issue a planning board issue or a board of health issue? And it's really a board of health issue. And so like, how do we rectify the board of health staffing issues so that we can get our staff member back? I'm more concerned about this being
A long-term.
a long-term thing, which I know it's not meant to be, but the things I said before, it could potentially happen. So I don't know. I don't know how. I don't want to be the department that's like, hey, give us what we want, and who cares about everyone else? Because we're a town. So I understand the board of health needs help. How do we get board of health the help that they need?
Well, I think maybe the thing at this point is to keep track of what's going on. I mean, we really need to keep very careful track of how this is working, and so that we find out what the problems are, if there are problems, and it'll give us a basis on which to ask for the Board of Health to deal with them themselves. Okay. All right, Jenny, update.
So I believe the board received the survey for the wayfinding and branding. So if you haven't completed that, please complete that. And then for the public, it is available on our website. Also distributed was the survey for the open space and recreation plan. So you should have all received it. If you didn't, we can resend it, but please complete that and send to everybody you know to complete. We only have had about 200 responses, and where we're a town of about 22,000 people, that's not very representative.
Unfortunately for this town, it's not a bad turnout.
Sounds like town meeting.
So can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
I went to go fill it out and I had to click like 4 times to find a link because the
Okay.
thing that I had to click on had a QR code, but I was at my computer. I'm like, I'm not going to take my phone out to scan the thing to then do the thing on my phone.
Was this, where did you find it?
I think it was in an email from the,
Conservation?
no, it was an email just from like the town,
Okay.
the notice that they send things out on. But it was
Okay.
like, the thing that they said is like, in the email, it's like, here, click this to do the survey. And then it brought you to the town page that was just a
It
PDF.
drives me nuts.
That
yeah.
said, like, it had a link below. It was like, click for here for more information. And then when you click there, it like, I don't even know if it took me directly to the thing or if it took me to something else. But then like, eventually I got there. I was like,
Okay.
that seemed too many steps to try and,
No, that's good feedback. Yeah.
click the link.
I'll take a look at it. I'm not the one responsible, but I'll definitely relay that information. And I think that's good feedback also as we move to doing more public outreach, that we need to make it easier for
Did
people.
both of those surveys go in paper to various places, which is what I suggested last time? Was that they
I
should-
believe the wayfinding plan did, at least. I would have to check with the conservation director.
Because I
on
do
that.
feel strongly that that is the way, you need to have copies of that at the library, you need to have copies at the senior center, you need to have copies at the town hall, you need copies even on your desk up here in the Forbes building.
Yeah, we
So
do,
that people can grab a copy, because a lot of people don't look at the town website. They don't have any idea what's going on and have no thoughts about filling out surveys. But if you've got a paper survey and maybe you can have a drop-off point where they can fill them out and drop them off, they can stick them in the mailbox outside the town hall.
Yes, absolutely. I'll take that feedback back to them. We are also meeting as a group on the downtown plan on Monday afternoon. So hopefully at that time, we'll be setting some dates for the public outreach meetings. They've been doing some observation downtown and doing traffic counts as well. So hopefully we will have some of that data to be able to share. The other thing that I'll mention is that we we are hiring a consultant, Emily Ines of Ines Associates, to assist us with our sign bylaw for the downtown. So that she'll be brought on board for our kickoff meeting in late April. And then we'll go from there. Hopefully we'll be ready for October town meeting, if not March town meeting next year. And I think that's all I have, and then Kristen, I think, has some stuff on the transportation and housing things to share.
Great, we just have a couple updates. Our housing production plan was officially approved by EOHLC, so that is posted on our webpage as well as the Affordable Housing Trust webpage, if anybody wants to reference that.
Kristen, kind of off topic, but kind of on topic. What percent are we at on the SHI?
11.8.
0.8, but Kristen, I mean, you might be saying this already, but we did add quite a
Yeah,
number.
that's the next thing on
Yep,
the
okay, I
list.
won't steal.
Okay. I was just gonna say, because even if we were below 10%, the housing production plan would give us safe harbor from 40Bs anyway.
Yeah.
So we're kind of double protected.
But on that note,
14 at one point.
we also completed our SHI inventory update recently, and to just give you a rundown on some of the new things that we're able to include. They're not, it's being evaluated right now. They have a different, they have to get building permits and COIs and different things. But assuming that all the projects are going to go through, 18 to 30 Lyman, that had 33 affordable units, and 132 will go towards the SHI total. 25 Connector has 28 affordable units, and 109 go towards SHI, because both of those projects were subsidized by Affordable Housing Trust, so they were able to meet the 25% benchmark. And then 134 Fisher has 4 affordable units, 3 Baylor is a single house, and then Village Commons has 4. So altogether, that's 70 actual affordable new units and 250 additional units towards the SHI once they all fall in. So that's a pretty significant
That's
difference
great.
in a year's time. So, good news on that. We recently submitted an expression of interest for the active transportation plan for the One Stop for Growth grant, and they confirmed that it would qualify under the planning and zoning category. So that is something that we're going to be working on. That opens up, that application can be submitted May 5th to June 4th. So between now and then, we'll be working to complete that application. So maybe we can get an active transportation plan in place. And then something I think that's important to note behind the scenes, the DPW, the building department, and planning is scheduling our next meeting to review our transportation project. So after town meeting takes place sometime the beginning of April, we'll all get together. Everybody has their list of transportation projects that are going on in town, and we'll kind of discuss priorities overall, timelines, costs, making sure we're all on the same page as far as going for funding. So that's something I think that's been long due that's good to know that we're working on.
Is the East Main Street anywhere on there still?
Yep. And then we'll share that. Once we have a completed project plan, we'll definitely make that available for everybody to see. And then that'll be a living document that we work with, change, alter, add things, drop things. And then also, if everyone's aware, the sustainability, Sustainable Westborough has their environmental action fair coming up Saturday, March 29th at the high school gym. And that's from 1 to 4?
I think it's 1 to 4.
Something like that. So planning is going to have a booth. If anybody's there, stop by and say hi. Those are the things.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That's great. I did have a design review meeting this morning. We approved a sign in the plaza right across from CVS, the cleaning place. And also, we've looked at a sign, the next to Cha-Cha Beans, the tutoring place went out of business. So a spa and reflexology is going in there. So we asked a modification to their sign, so we did not approve that sign. So that's all, and I haven't been to any other meetings. John?
For me?
I went to a CMRPC meeting recently. It was fine, nothing groundbreaking coming from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, we have minutes for 3/4/25. They looked all right to me.
The only
think
change
you
I
had
had on
some
those
changes,
is, yeah, can I just see it, Dirk, so I can explain it properly?
Put on a little bit right there too. I'll change for the next one.
So in the vote count, we've got 4-0, 4-0, and then 5-0. And so here, usually, when you're like 5 years down the road, you're like, oh, why was the vote different?
Yeah.
It's because I showed up at this point.
Oh, right.
So I just wanted Dirk to note, at this point,
Good
member
point.
Gelse had showed up. So that's why we got the 5 votes.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's the only change I proposed.
All right. Got a motion to approve?
Yeah, I move the planning board approve the minutes of February
4th.
4th. March 4th.
March 5th. Is there a
March 4th.
second?
Second.
It's not me, sorry.
Oh, you asked for the motion, so you can keep going. I gave the motion.
All in favor? Okay. Thank you, thank you. We've got upcoming meeting dates of April 1st, 15th, and May 6th.
And just a reminder, we have posted the meeting.
Oh, right, for the
Town
town
meeting
meeting,
also.
right. Right. Yeah, that's good. All right, is there any other business to bring before the meeting tonight? If not, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you for attending. Thank you, Westborough TV. John, I would like